So you must go to the brcsa.org.za, right? You can all see that. Cool. I'm going to just minimize that. And I'm saying that about Teams. Okay, so just here, this is a part of the media releases explaining about how COVID affected, etc., and what is happening right now, and perhaps why we haven't exactly received another, yeah, like a full reflection of the Rams just yet. Okay. Anyway, all right, but we are. Okay. What I want you to look at first is, and the only thing is that you do have available to you right now. I'm saying just let this thing load. Are these? But I have loaded this up for you. Okay, so this you have available. Let's reload this document. Okay, so this is just where it'll show you the numbers from a diary to diary, so you can see comparatively like how the stations have been doing. I'm just going to admit no one, of course, keeps popping off there. Okay. Alternatively, this is taking so long. Just give me a second. I do also have it here. Just give me a second so I can just find it. Sorry for that. Okay, let's see. Amplify release presentation. Okay. While it decides to do its thing, now we'll list of screens. Okay, so this is the one from last year. Okay, when you do your analysis, it has to be based on the figures from this year. Okay, I'm just again going to have to switch screens. So just give me a second. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that just kicked me out. You go still, obviously still there. Let me not waste any more time really, because again, as you can see, things are going up, things are going down. Okay, let me I'm going to share the screen so that we just make sure that this recording is being done. Okay, let me share the RAMs I do have. Where's this one now? Okay, you can see that. You can see the PowerPoint presentation, the PDF, where there's the category approach. Yes, no, yes. I'm guessing yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Okay, so you can read through this. This is obviously what they did, and they adopted during the long-awaited COVID period, specifically with the Rams again, like we couldn't we couldn't get numbers like both for any one of them, for the TAMs, which is obviously television, and obviously the third dimension is obviously the lifestyle with products and what we eat and what we use and whatever it is. And well, like we couldn't get that while COVID was running. And so we found more innovative ways to be in touch with, people who we would consider part of our diaries, So there's a couple of thousand people, as far as I'm correctly in saying that there's a couple of thousand people that are used during the diaries. What is it? What is a diary? I know that because I'm literally teaching this right now to the second years, so I know that you've been introduced to the concepts of diaries and or how the audience research is actually done. So if we again just look at that whole thing of how it's assigned and how you got to fill in the diary, like throughout the day, what do you do, what do you listen to, what do you watch, or whatever it is, so that we can get a good idea as to what is happening. Okay, so so once again, I am going to use just last year's, just because because I have the full diary, the full report here. But you will use, I'm saying to you, when you want to refer to numbers within your formative one, obviously, like you're going to then use the just the end, like the total numbers that you are looking at with your competitors, right? So this is obviously just showing. And at any one point, please, just like stop me and say if you understand, anything, or if you need to understand something further. So that is obviously just telling you who and how many of like each race and obviously the sexes and whatever and ages or whatever, took part within the research itself. So sample gate, stability gate, weight gate, station change gate. We'll see which parts of that I'm going to pull in as important. Okay, all right, because you don't have to understand every single bit of this, but you have to understand a whole lot more than you did with the introduction of last year. Okay, so once again, just the figures. I just want to go past the population weights and all that type of stuff, just so that this is like our just our proof of payment in a way. What what we obviously what who and who was listening and who was obviously part of the report. So just to have a look at our our cumes over the 7-day period, and versus our Monday to Sunday, should I say, our weekdays and then our weekends. So just again, there was an 82% weekly P7D, right, reach, so within our averages, right? Okay, then we had our average daily, should I say. There we go, Monday, Sunday, and then we have our Monday to Fridays. All right, again, just to look at who is listening at like how many. We have a large number here in Gauteng because we're quite overpopulated here. We have very small numbers down in the Free State, and if we look at just across at obviously the Northwest and in Mpumalanga, 2.7, 2.5. Okay, time spent listening. So that's what TSL stands for. At this particular period here. I mean, like we can see really large numbers on average, so totals of on average of 5 hours, 4 hours, somewhere there, 4.5 hours spent each day. Okay, or just spent across obviously our different ethnicities, as well as then here we see here, I'm just going to point here. Okay, we see this according to our provinces, and we get a better, we need to understand how many people are listening to how much radio every single day, right? And then obviously that's broken down into our language sects. Okay, so isiNdebele is higher than obviously our isiZulu, Sesotho, Afrikaans, isiXhosa, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so just having that. I don't want to focus on just that right now. I want to go more to things that actually are quite new. When I say new, to how we would perceive the way that radio is consumed is definitely in this figure here that we see here with the 29% on mobile devices, right? That's that. So that is really a lot, you know. It just shows you that the way that we've changed our lifestyle and are very, very, very dependent on, you know, like a cell phone as a tool. You know, we have FM AM receivers on old phones. Okay, so you just put your headphones in, as you know. But now the thing is that a lot of people are also just streaming like stations from their web apps or whatever it is, because again, the cost of streaming is made through, again, as I explained to you in class, there's a deal that's made with the service provider so that the consumption of data, you know, is very, 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 very low, and the consumer doesn't feel it at all. We still listen to radio, obviously, as a big priority. 44% over there, 24% in the car, and then 14% on DSTV radio channels. Okay, all right. So let's have a look at by devices. So streaming on the car radio. So again, this just once again proves like how many people are not ready for DAB plus. There's a very small elite amount of people that do have a digital receiver right in their car. They could be streaming from a cell phone or website. 2% here, and then 3% for digital streaming on a cell phone using an app. Okay, and then smart speakers versus PCs, laptop is the lowest over there. So admit everyone. Okay, all right. So we can see that here, like terrestrial and digital sits at 4%, digital only 4%, and then again 92% of our radio consumption is at terrestrial only. In other words, on an AM or an FM frequency. Okay, and that is just the way that our culture has been for like the longest of times, right? On location, like most people listen to radio at their home, at a friend's house at 3%. We have a car, 21%, 5 public transport. We have work, school, and then at restaurants. This is obviously by default. Where it is that we might consider, you know, we've spent a lot of time, you know, shopping centers, restaurants, whatever it may be, and heard that they have adopted like a regional station as something that they would play throughout the day, you know, because it's a lot easier than, you know, loading your own playlist constantly and it being on repeat and whatever it may be, right? This is super important to you. Okay, so understanding what people still like most on radio. Okay, so the thing is, again, music is still at the top of that choice. Okay, so 86% of the people within, obviously, the sample set, the big sample set, you know, chose music as the first reason as to why, you know, programs listened to the most often were music programs. Local news came second, weather is third, advice seventh, fourth, religious, traffic, current affairs, international sports competitions, financial marketing, soapies or dramas, phone-ins, celebrity news, and funeral notices. So, you know, like students should, you know, again, I will always use previous years as examples. You know, there's this need for constantly, you know, just slamming celebrity news down people's right, noses and their faces and whatever it is, but it's not as popular as playing some good music, like giving them the news that they need. Advice, especially, you know, is something that, because we need it as we need functionality more than we actually need more than we need entertainment, you know, like blaring entertainment, like we would celebrity gossip and news or whatever it is. It's not that it isn't important, you know. Funeral notices is something that is a bit of an anomaly because of where we were at this stage, which was COVID. Do you understand? So funeral notices and anything to do with you know, that concept and that you know, that umbrella topic, you know, was big for us. Competition's obviously a big reason why we listen to radio stations. Not obviously a big reason. It's part of just kind of that loyalty that people enjoy. and so on and so forth, right? Traffic, weather, stuff that you think is so boring, and people really, I mean, we get that from GPS, on Google Maps, we get the weather constantly updated to our phones, but still people listen to the radio because they want, now, as much as they trust their phone, they trust the radio presenter more. The media landscape, so we say, here in terms of like of average day listeners, so again, radio P7 days, right? Okay, up at 82%. I want to kind of look at our social media chats. So what is that? That is our WhatsApp, okay, specifically, right? Because it is the dominant social messaging chat platform that we use. FTA TV, social media. We've got satellite in there, used by the internet, radio and transition and hi-fi, online video streaming, which is quite a big number, again, for a country that has such a massive cost rate, for our data, right? And then going down to, things like podcasts and print magazines and DSTV channels and so on and so forth. Yeah. All right, the SEMs. So what is that? The social economic measurement. Okay, our social economic measurement, right? Which has changed more to understand the way that people live their life, in terms of their lifestyle. Okay, that's what we're more interested in. Where LSMs were more about just like the money that they made and when they fell into that. Okay, so for each SEM, you can go and have a look and see that as you scroll through the SEMs. I'm not going to go through the lesson. I'm just going to go through through this report, and you can go through the lesson because going through the report is just better. Okay, so anyway, you'll see that the higher the SEM goes, like just note the difference between like where we're sitting at a low SEM. We have obviously KZN sitting in the middle, which was stated before, but we sit at high percentages for our transistors on our, obviously our normal radios, versus very, very low numbers here as we get to a little bit more of, like I say, our digital stuff, like our cell phones and our smart speakers and so on. I want you to also notice how the numbers change here. So let's go to the SEM2, okay? SEM2's kind of the same, but it's dropping in terms of like there, it's a bit 38 there. KZN still in the lead there. Now you're going to start seeing a bit of a difference here with our Gauteng listeners, and we start seeing a rise in our DSTV and radio car listening. Okay, right. Sorry, I just want to go to something that's so here. Okay, so you can see that already at an SEM5. So people that are this is the middle class that we're sitting at. When I say middle class, again, not according to what you earn, but more according to what you want to spend or like kind of dissipate that money towards. Okay, so we're seeing now the spike in Gauteng, and again we're seeing again a bit of a lower down on the cell phone, seeing still kind of the same on transistor high. So as the SCM, so we're considering people that are richer, right, or have a lot more money to spend. We go to SCM 8 and 9 and 10. And where do they sit or reside? Excuse me. Okay. Where do they reside? They reside in Gauteng, right? Okay. Gauteng, second at the Western Cape, and so on and so forth. Why? Again, mostly because we have the densest population here. So it starts to stand to reason here with the commute. We have the heaviest traffic in the country. It makes sense that people are spending more time on their car radios. Not look at that very low percent compared to the very high percent of people that were at the number 1, 2, or 3 SEM, versus let's say listening to a normal radio set, at home, etc. Just don't have time. They're coming back like 7:30 At night, they're leaving very early. And again, we have obviously a variation in terms of lifestyle. But let's say from an average of 4 o'clock in the morning, people on the road here in Gauteng, to about, let's say, 7, half past 7 at night. Okay. And we're still seeing heavy traffic according, like on the commute, mainly across the N1, N4, N2, N3. Okay. All right. Okay. If there are any questions so far, you must please let me know. Anything yet? I'm going to give it a second. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so now we're going to look at the P7D percentages. So again, just from the LSMs 1 to 9, so you can see for the different stations. Again, what I said to you in the brief for the FA1, okay, is that you have to look at your competitors, right? So let's say in these particular RAMs, like there might not be the community stations, which are the student stations, which you need to go and look at Val, UJ, and Tux, and you can just ask them. I mean, you can just phone them and ask them and tell them, can you please just give us like a little bit more in-depth knowledge about how your RAMs work. Otherwise, just work on the numbers that you've got, and then you have to do some research on why those numbers are the way that they are. So you might have to go look at previous, like in activations, initiatives, the programs that they've started, or that are running on different stations, and be able to include that as part of your FA1 question 2. Okay, so here this makes a lot of sense, because 702 would have like the highest audiences are at 29. Okay, sorry, at SEM 10. Okay, again, a 5FM, Cape Talk, we're looking at now at Pulpit, which starts to diminish over there, and the highest ones are at an SEM 8 and an SEM 5, and obviously 947 also tries to market for a higher end consumer. Okay, we look at a YFM here, an SEM of 8, where people just assume that just kids are listening to it that do not have money. It's not that's not the case. We have a lot of people that are bringing in an income, so people that have jobs. We're talking about like past the age 25 that are listening to YFM and earning enough money now, to be the predominant SEM for our YFM, Algoa, Capricorn Classic, East Coast Radio setting. That doesn't surprise, but it is quite odd that that's quite an anomaly in terms of seeing 11, 11, 11 all the way from SEM3 to SEM8. Mostly because East Coast isn't really challenged, in KZN. There are specific, obviously stations like Lotus FM, which carries a large number of people. Again, Kakasi FM, which is nothing like East Coast Radio, so we don't consider them competition. I'm just saying, should you be working here, Kakasi does not, consider East Coast at all like competition. As you can see here, like there's Kakasi FM, much lower on the SEM 10s, but focuses largely more, and it's appealing more, to the 15, obviously the SM 4s, the 3s, and again the 5 and the 7s over there. Okay, so you look at Jacaranda sitting at a high 19 there, which is again, and you can go through. I'm not going to go through. There are some so I just wanted to show you that we do have some community stations that are sitting there and that are showing some numbers. Okay, all right. All right, devices and location, you can go have a look at it. That's quite interesting, for each station to know. Listen, so if someone's listening more on a cell phone or whatever it may be, like, we want to be able to know that our app is inclusive of a little bit more, they're enjoying it, whatever it is, and so on and so forth. So these things this is, again, all of it's important information. It just depends on how it is that you want to interpret it. Again, I'm not going to go through what is kind of obvious there. Okay, and then digital sources, again, kind of breaking down what we saw in the beginning as an introduction, again with the PC, laptops, smartphones, etc., and showing how many people are listening to, like there at 947, 702, and YFM that's quite a good number, you know, of listeners that are listening I'm saying as a number, a total number on the DSTV channels. Okay, so digital sources. Let's just head on over, and this is the community ones that are listed. Okay. So station listen by location. Once again, revisiting, you know, whether you're at home, at a friend's house, again in a car, so on and so forth. So we can read a little bit more into the lifestyle that they are leading. You know, at home, you know, we could be assuming that people are working from home, depending on which target listener we're trying to analyze over here. It could just be, you know, more so, let's say, a little bit, you know, obviously the breakfast shows that are definitely listened to in the the late parts of the drive shows and so on, as well as the weekends that do constitute those numbers over there. But as we saw in the beginning, like we saw that, you know, listening at home is just like one of the things that we include as part of, you know, the culture that we have here in South Africa. Okay. All right, and then once again it just repeats on that. Okay, so looking at the provinces, I really want to, so the yesterday listener, so if you remember from the initial uh, rams that I did show, you know, the first or second lessons, I just popped them up just for numbers, right? They, you know, it showed like a yesterday listener, and then we had the P7D listener. So I want to go look at the Gauteng ones specifically. So here we got just an average across all stations, right? A time spent listening, so Monday to Sunday, sitting there at 51%, weekday, so Monday to Friday, 53%, and the weekend at 45, you know, which is actually really good, right? Seeing this also brings us a little bit of understanding of the weekend versus the weekday, right? So when you are busy looking at different stations, which they do have one for each station as we go along, right? Like you want to be able to see. I mean, look at on average, people you see quite stagnant across from the breakfast show through the brunch, through the lunch show, and through the drive show, which is actually lower than the brunch and the lunch. We have a lot of preconceived like mistakes, like you know, perceptions that are incorrect in saying, you know, that the breakfast is always so extremely high in terms of listenership. It really isn't, depending on which like station one you're listening to, and two, obviously, like you know, which province we're trying to draw that information from. Okay. Okay, so the share of audience sits again at, you know, our we see Metro sitting at like up there at 12, in Gauteng, Ukhozi at 10, Lesedi, Tobela 947, Jacaranda 702. So we look at the ones that are obviously power players over there, and then you know, at the share of listening. Sorry, let me just move this away. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So again, that's just that's gross duplicate. Actually, I must just make sure that you understand that. So when we do the rams, and again in your book specifically, because I mean, looking here in your book on page 409, right? You should go and do just the revision that was brought to you, obviously, by Sharita last year, and just make sure that you know what is going on in terms of like those different figures, you know, and also call outs and that type of stuff. Okay, I'm gonna just try and move to an example of one of the stations. Okay. Okay, so let me just let her in. Okay. Okay, so looking at again, so here, this is no surprise, as I always say, of course, is always the highest. Okay, so that P7, so we got nearly 8 million over here. So over the 7 days, and then the yesterday figures. Okay, so our Monday to Fridays, etc. Right? Okay, we got a more realistic number over here. Okay, so again, the percentages are super high. And not the percentages, man. The numbers, obviously, for Corsi always very high. Let's go down. And then we start seeing the commercial stations like Jacaranda, as I said to you, is much stronger than our fives, our YFMs, East Coast, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so we always want to be able to look at those and say, okay, wow, these stations are doing really well, right? Stations that we overlook, things like True FM, Vuma FM, are also doing really well within the context of where they are and who they're up against, right? And some really nice shows on UFM, like I say, on True FM. Specifically, we forget about XKFM for our a Khoisan, population, LM Radio, so on and so forth. Some legacy stations over there. Seeing as you see what they've included, why they're not including every community station is because that in this case, like the numbers for the rest of the stations were too small. Do you understand? So they just didn't want to include further than that. Also the other reason is that those stations didn't want to be included in the RAMs. So because you can go and request, can you not, you don't have to go and let's say analyze my station's numbers, or could you include me in that as well? Okay, so okay, so let's go. It says here, stop listening to or are listening to less than before, by filter by yes. Reason stopped listening to. Okay, yeah. Okay, great. So this here is more useful. Okay, for you to understand again and explain why things are happening on certain stations. So already we're seeing, reception becomes a bit of a problem. DAB needs to be, more of a priority, right? Routine change. Our routine has changed, so we don't listen to stations because of that. This is bad for us. Okay, they're preferring another station, disliking the content, no longer like the station at all, dislike the programming, dislike the songs or music. That is, I mean, and also not enough local, right? So these are terrible reasons that shouldn't even be reasons at all, for us to be changing stations like point blank, right? Okay, so here, okay, our RAMs also include like per station why it is that people stop listening to your station. So with Metro, 19% said they prefer another station. The routine changed a little bit, and they don't like the programming, right? Okay, so those two are big factors saying that Metro is not doing a great job. We look at all different ones, and the thing is that there's a bit of a trend, as I'm sure I've mentioned in class, right? That disliking content, don't like the programming station, don't the programming of the station. They want another different station. My routine has changed. Okay, you prefer another station for Lesedi. So Lesedi is doing okay-ish, right? Okay. But yeah, with let's say Radio 2000, they don't like the music that they're playing. That's a big deal. Don't like the music they're playing on 5FM. Kakasi FM, I don't like the programming. I prefer another station. I don't like the station anymore. These are the three big reasons. So terrible reasons for Kakasi to look at it and be like, oh my, wow, like this is just not great for us. So you can go through and actually see a little bit more of what was more prominent with different stations, and again within your own capacity for your project. Like you will be looking at those types of reasons that are opportunities for you to ask, let's say, questions about programming that will draw students to listen to BMH radio. Do you understand, right? Okay, I'm not going to obviously go through all of them. I will just, again, like I say, send that so that it is part of what you can download on Call Campus to make sure that it is there. Okay, but yeah, okay. All right, so again, just more listener behavior, etc., and stations that we switch to. So, for example, here's our competition for Metro, Ukhozi FM, Radio 2000, Umhlobo Wenene. From Ukhozi FM, they went to Umhlobo Wenene, Lesedi, Kagasi, and Metro, and so on and so forth. So again, to see the competition is also really cool, because then you can go and explore what it is that the stations are busy doing that are good for you. I'm going to end that over there. Just close this over here. I'm going to go back here and think. Is everyone okay? So what are the questions for for the Rams? There has to be questions. You can't have understood all of that. Nothing. Can I get okays that you are okay? Angie, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Good. Kamal, are you good? I'll wait
I'm
for
good,
this.
brother.
Okay, cool. Okay, Oratile, good. Hello. I'm guessing it's a yes. Nkosi, you good? I know you'll be bouncing in and out of the class. You good? I'm gonna assume that's a yes. Cool. I want to switch to the actual PowerPoint presentation, just because I want to show you how the cumes are worked out. Okay, so in other words, like the listenership itself. Okay, just quickly take that off. Okay, all right. Okay, so that is like an example. Yeah, you can see that, right? Yeah, you can see that, right? Okay, so you can see an example of a diary over here, where you go and you fill out your name, your contact number, etc., and then you will go and fill out exactly what you listen to, exactly at when at what time. Okay, right? The other, yeah. Okay, so then you would say there would be there's a lot more questions than what you just see in front of you, like favorite radio stations, etc. And then again, that kind of consumption of what you do, and when you do it and for how long. And again, it's not just about the radio stations anymore. It's again about all the social mediums and all the, like I said, the podcasting and all that type of stuff that does now become inclusive to how we analyze the performance of our radio station. Okay, so when we look at, like I said, this is a 7-day cume, so a P7D, right? Okay, like a cumulative audience. I want to go to how this is actually worked out. So imagine there are 100 diaries that come back with 5FM marked as having been listened to for 2 or more quarters in this 7-day period. Okay, so we're going to make it really basic. There's more examples once again in the textbook itself, okay, that are exactly the same, but also include duplicate listeners, so that you can understand that we minus duplicate listeners when we look at our gross totals, and then obviously get our full number of our cubes at the end of the day, right? So let's say 50 people listen on Monday, 20, 70, 45, 99, 66. We add them all up together. We get a gross number. We would look at, within that, then look at duplicate listeners, minus that, and then get our average for, okay, our total listeners for the radio station, right? Okay, and this is a very watered down version, okay, very watered down version. Then we have our average Q, obviously our average per day, so 344 divided by 7 equals to 50 people per day. Okay, once again, so there's just another example where it's just directly up at 90 divided by 7, 90 per day. Okay, we have to really desperately look at the way that, like, our graphing, and across the day, that goes up and that goes down, because that tells us immediately, right, there's red alarms that are going off, and whether our weekends are doing better. In the previous, like I say, in the previous presentation, I will show you there was a difference obviously between the weekends and then Monday to Sunday, etc., Monday to Friday. So we can actually see, like we like look at that, like for example, like at 12 o'clock, we're not doing that well. In fact, we're doing really badly compared to like the large number that we're seeing at drive and we're seeing at breakfast. These are all. This is particularly, as you can see, very an old picture from one of the 5FM diaries that Grant used to work for, and so he just pulled it from there. Great, but we're looking at, obviously you got the more obviously the newer ones there. Please, time spent listening is super important, right? Time spent listening in general, so that TSL, like with the whole reason why we do anything in radio is one, for money, obviously, like we want the revenue to come in, but the revenue cannot be there unless the time spent listening becomes like longer and it becomes more frequent. So in other words, I listen every day, Monday to Sunday, and I listen to, let's say, 4 to 5 hours or 3 to 4 hours every single day, and then like we're doing like a really good job. Okay, so the cumes are very important. Okay, and they help us with our marketing, obviously, because again, once we can also, like, marketing is one thing, but also sales and revenue is how we will, this is how we back it up. We back it up with numbers, and then we also back it up with, as you can see, that was just the tip of the iceberg to understand, okay, well, our listeners are consuming this, they're doing this at that time, they're obviously they tune into our station because our competitors have not been doing well at content, or they haven't been playing good music, or whatever it is, I don't know. So there's proof of pudding as to why everything is happening. I would not, if you do go and you download this lesson, I would not look at this, because this is old. These are old stats over there. Okay, that is that is the the lesson. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it there, and then I'm just gonna just quickly stop this recording.